Welcome to Moving People Forward with Mark Elfstrand. This program is a series of conversations on commonly seen challenges in everyday people's lives. We hope you'll be inspired by the stories you hear today. Perhaps you know of someone who would also benefit. Be sure to share the program link with a friend. Now, here's Mark.
Welcome, friends. You know, the situation of aging in life can create a perilous time for some people, even to the point where some people say, you know, I don't think life is worth living anymore. But on today's program, Moving People Forward, you're going to meet someone who doesn't believe that at all. In fact, he is an advocate for living life to the full in the aging years of life. So I'd like you to meet my friend, Dr. Rich Bimler, who is the ambassador of Health, Hope, and Aging for Lutheran Church Charities. Did I get that right?
You got it. Aha. It spells aha.
Aha.
Yeah,
right. Well, aha. It's kind of like an aha moment that we're having.
Right.
They talk about that in business and so on like that.
Right.
So you were a pastor for many years, is that correct?
Served congregations in youth ministry and district positions and national positions, yeah. And then Church Ministry, CEO.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, Church Ministry is a ministry of health and hope throughout the world. We would start new ministries of health and hope, everything from working in the Holy Land to inner city to supporting people in medical missions and the whole works. Yeah, it was quite a ministry. Uh-huh.
Okay, so you've had a pretty interesting and full life.
Yeah, it sounds like I can't keep a job, you know. I just kind of keep moving on, you know.
It did sound like that for a moment, but then I realized that you've held some pretty significant jobs, so that's pretty important. Mm-hmm. And you also are a writer?
Yeah, I try to be anyway, yeah. I'm learning, uh-huh.
You got things published, that's pretty good
true,
news.
Yeah.
In fact, I've got a copy, of your latest book here. I'll have to have you sign this before you leave. It's called Joyfully Aging, and the subtitle is A Christian's Guide. Oh, now wait, is there a difference of the way people age, whether they have a faith or not?
Oh, I think so. I think so.
How so?
Yeah. Well, to have a faith in a Lord that has already given us everything we need is pretty important. I always remember a friend of mine, I have two friends, but one of the friends is when he would have a tough day and things weren't going well, he'd go to bed and his prayer was, Lord, I resign, I quit, I give up, you know. Yeah. And then as he would tell the story, he would say, if I would wake up the next morning, that must mean that the Lord hasn't accepted my resignation.
Yeah.
And that's a good way for people of God, I think, to look at life. That you and I woke up this morning, meaning to me that the Lord has something else for us to do, regardless of our age. And a lot of older adults, I think, give up, or I think our society kind of says, well, you're not as important as you used to be. Remember the good old days.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to say to people, not convince them, but just to celebrate, because I think it's very scriptural. We are aha people even when we don't look like it or act like it or feel like it, because we are His. The resurrection has happened. We live on this side of the resurrection, and that's what keeps us motivated to live.
Well, tell me about when you received in your mind anyway, your call to ministry.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you know, maybe you were thinking about becoming something when you were a teenager, and now you're this. How did those connect?
Well, interesting. The Lord works in marvelous ways and unusual ways, I think. One thing I think I've been blessed, Mark, with the Lord knew I couldn't do anything by myself, and so He's put a lot of what I'd call models, people of faith around me to help support me, encourage me.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, by the way, I think we adults can give back to the Lord and give back to young people today, of not saying, oh, I'm over, you know, I'm too old, I can't do anything. I keep saying that I want to be somebody that I needed when I was young. I want to be somebody to a young person today. In other words, that I can be helpful to young people the way adults, when I was growing up, were helpful to me.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever go through any, deep crisis in your own life? I mean, did you ever have situations where you felt, I need something beyond me to such a degree that you just had to turn to someone else?
Well, yeah, almost. I think I learned maybe the hard way too, of really thinking, hey, I've got my degrees, and I can do it.
Right.
And then I found out that, hey, I can't do it on my own. And again, that's what the church, I like to call the church the holy huddle. people of God that gather together, that support each other, that work with each other. And I've been blessed because people have blessed me when I couldn't get the job done.
Yeah, okay.
And they forgive then, and they forgive and they move on, yeah.
So you decided at some point that life was not worth living alone, so you chose to go out and find a wife. How did that search work out for you?
That's good. Is she here? I mean, we should check with her. Yeah, we went to high school together, it was kind of fun. And we became, matter of fact, a week after we were married, we were in our first parish in Houston, Texas, and knew nothing of what we're supposed to do. I mean, a week married, we don't know what we're doing. But yet the joy there, the Lord again was working through us. The Lord put us into a congregation that really loved us, these two young kids.
Yeah.
And we look back and remember all the silly, foolish stuff we did and the mistakes, but yet they forgave us. And that's been a real building point for us, I think. We didn't know it until later in life. And so that's, and we have fun. We've been married 58 and a half years, I think, something like that. In a row, by the way, that's pretty good.
I thought you were going to give me the minutes and the seconds on that as well, but...
But she's been my best critic and my faithful support too, and we need both. I mean, wherever we are, yeah.
Well, in your years of doing what you've done, you realize that a lot of marriages just aren't able to keep it together.
Oh my.
And so if you were, being approached and someone asked you, okay, so 58 and a half years and 47 minutes and whatever. But what is the secret to this? I mean, there is no perfect secret, but what did you do to make sure that you stayed together?
That's tough. It was the Lord's doing. We know that. We used to say we've been together for so long for three reasons. One, we laugh a lot together.
Okay.
We forgive a lot together.
Yeah.
And the third thing, probably the most important thing, is I travel a lot. I mean,
so
and
you
that
give her a
gets
break.
me away.
That's right.
Yeah, but seriously, I think it's not that we've laughed through life, but I think we've had hopefully, and we don't always do it well, but a spirit in both of us to say it's going to be okay, even when we mess up and she doesn't like what I'm doing. And Hazel, her name is, by the way, and we get upset. We still know that the Lord is bringing us together, and that's a joy. And see, we celebrate that every day. We mess up, but yet we can forgive and move on.
So how important is it that a stable marriage contributes to perhaps the success of your kids' marriage and what they see in you as a couple as well?
Good point, yeah. And it doesn't mean, a stable Christian marriage to me doesn't mean that everything's going fine.
Right.
Because if that's true, I've never seen a Christian marriage.
Or your wife puts you in the stable because
that's
you haven't
right.
been.
Exactly, yeah. Matter of fact, we learned that the hard way too. One of our kids got a divorce, and that just almost destroyed me. I mean, after all, hey, I'm working for the church. I should be a model.
Yeah.
And what also I learned there was that I was trying to fix this.
Yeah.
I need to fix this. And the people around me, my other kids and my wife, they didn't just try to fix it. They forgave and they listened and they supported instead of trying to fix. And that was a good lesson for me, that hey, I'm not a fixer. The Lord's already done that. And it's tough sometimes, and that's why I think when church work people, sometimes others see everything must be fine in that house and everybody's happy and laughing. If that's true, I've never seen a Christian family, because a Christian family is a family that knows how to, if you will, disagree in the right way, I think, and really be honest with each other, and at the same time love and forgive and move on in spite of.
Well, we're going to take a time out. My guest is Dr. Rich Bimler, who has an interesting job description at this point of life. He is an ambassador of health, hope, and aging. He likes to call it AHA for Lutheran Church Charities. We're going to continue our conversation and give you some of that extra measure of hope when we continue in just a moment.
God is our safe place and our strength. He is always our help when we are in trouble. This word of God in Psalm 46:1 says it all. God is our safe place. He is our strength. He is our help when we are in trouble. Whenever and wherever we are invited, nationally or internationally, Lutheran Church Charities' mission is to bring the mercy, compassion, presence, and proclamation of Jesus Christ to those who are suffering and in need. LCC is a ministry of presence, to be present with Jesus, to lift up people in times of joy and sorrow, in prayer, and by passing through donations of dollar per dollar to those in need. Through our canine ministries, we respond and deploy with boots on the ground and paws within 24 hours, often sooner, of any crisis or disaster situation we're invited into. You see, for us, the bottom line is making a difference by being present. For people who are suffering and in need with that mercy, compassion, presence of Jesus Christ. Thank you again for allowing us the privilege to stand alongside and serve others. Jesus and your partnership make that possible to touch thousands of lives.
Welcome back to Moving People Forward. I'm Mark Elfstrand. My guest today is Dr. Rich Bimler, who is the ambassador of Health, Hope, and Aging with the Ministry of Lutheran Church Charities. His most recent book is this one right here, and it's called Joyfully Aging. We're going to continue our conversation today by talking about that whole issue of aging as the only way to live. Well, I guess in part because if you don't get older, you're having a hard time living,
That's
right?
right, that's right, yeah.
There is some basic there, but you say that even in the idea that you've gotten a fair degree of life to celebrate the idea of aging. Talk about that.
Yeah, I think the church has a big challenge ahead, I think, in our society too, because I think we're growing up in a society that sees youth as positive, good, and aging as negative. It's almost like, I used to be in youth ministry, and we used to talk about youth assets, that you find the gifts, the assets that young people have and develop them, and
Okay.
I'm all for that. In aging, it seems to me that it's not assets we're looking for, but we look for deficits, aging deficits. How can we help those poor folks? You know, and there's nothing wrong with asking that, but to me, in my life, it's always been, and our society has always said, youth is positive, aging is negative. I think we're in trouble with that because, and I'm not saying one's better than the other. An old Japanese saying I remember, I don't remember the Japanese language of it, but it says, the rising sun is no less beautiful than the setting sun, meaning that in aging, the beautiful babies and the older adults, they're no less or more, they're equal because they're God's people. And so that's kind of my crusade. How can we, the church, people, families, organizations, do more to not say everything adults are doing are fine and the kids, don't worry about them? No, but how can we bring the elements together? How can we bring the generations together more?
Okay, but as you age, people can have serious pain issues
Oh, you
before they
bet.
get older,
You bet.
but it tends to happen more when you're older.
Exactly.
Either arthritis sets in, or you just the aches and pains of life. And this brings us to that point again where some people might say, I'm not sure that this is a blessing. Feels more to me like a burden.
Yeah. Well, good point. And I go through the same thing, and just oftentimes I think we get caught up in terms of, I get stuck on, instead of looking at my burdens, I want the Lord to help me look at my blessings. And again, I'm not saying that, oh, I'm 79, by the way. I'm 79 and 11/12. So
I thought you just look like you're 78.
Is that no?
Right,
70.
yeah.
That's good. And I like to tell my people my age, because a lot of times our society, again, do you ever try to go in a Hallmark card and buy a card for a 60-year-old? You know, you can't find them that say, hooray for aging. You say, oh, yeah, you're over the hill and
Right.
you hit the, too bad, fella, you know. Frank Sinatra didn't do us any good when he sang fairy tales can come true when it happens to you if you're young at heart.
Right, yeah.
We've missed the beauty. We're not taking anything away from youth, but we continue to be God's people even when we're 79 and 11/12. Yeah. And so that's my crusade kind of. And I like to say I'm an aha person, but the good news is that I'm not the only one. We all are, you see, because the Lord's working through all of us. So I think it's an attitudinal thing. I've got pains too. We all do, and that's part of aging.
Yeah.
And when the Lord talks about those who have been given much, more is expected, I'd like to think He's talking about years.
Yeah.
For those the Lord has given much age, He's expecting something from us, and that's why we're here on this earth another day.
Well, if we're talking about songs by Old Blue Eyes,
Yeah.
there was another one
Yeah.
that even when I remember hearing this even as a teenager, it was a very good year.
Oh,
Do you remember
yeah,
this song?
exactly.
And then he comes to the end of this and he says, "But now the days are short.
Yeah,
I'm in the autumn of my
Yes,
life."
yes.
But even the way it's sung, it's sort of, almost like he's fading.
Yeah,
and,
exactly,
And he
yeah.
can feel that,
Yeah.
but he doesn't have the joy that you're talking about.
Exactly,
In that
yeah.
perspective of aging as well. Okay, well, let's get on to the more difficult side of this, which is there is some point where we're not going to be alive anymore, and how do we learn to, well, as you phrase it, die well?
Yeah, yeah. I remember when you say that, I remember Billy Graham, who was one of his many quotes said, all my life people taught me how to die. No one ever taught me how to live.
Right.
And I think that's true. We're so focused on death, and that's not bad, but it's not an easy. I think that's what I'm suggesting, that older adults and younger people need to talk about it. We need to get together more to talk about it and share those kind of things, because we don't have classes in aging well, I don't think. And I think Lutheran Church Charities and other ministries are doing more and more of that. With 10,000 people turning 65 today,
Right.
Yeah. We got an issue that we have to deal with that way. Yeah.
Okay, so as you look back on your life, and this is the way people when they age tend to think, well, if I could live life differently.
Yeah.
Okay, how do we get to the point where we don't have to say things like that and kind of think that, no, I did live life well?
Yeah. I don't know the answer there. I do know it's about forgiveness. It's about
Okay.
forgiving yourself, because the Lord has done that already, to be
Yeah.
able to say, Rich, you blew it so many times, but that's not the point. The point is the Lord's given you another day to use your gifts in some way to help other people, and to celebrate that. And again, I think the church sometimes dissects the people so much in ages that we don't have a chance to talk enough to teenagers and back and forth. We just don't have the system enough, and that's what we need to work on.
Is it true, though, that really a lot of your energy in life comes from a high intake of caffeine?
Who's been talking to you? Huh? I like them. I have a lot of St. Arbuck's meetings.
St. Arbuck's,
St.
yes.
Arbuck's. I call it St. Arbuck's. It sounds more religious that way.
Yes, it does.
I tell Hazel I got a church meeting at St. Arbuck's.
Right,
So,
yes.
But
She hasn't figured it out yet.
No, not yet.
apparently.
Don't tell her. No.
Okay.
But seriously, seriously, that the whole bringing together people just to talk, I think that's the start. Whether it's in families, whether it's in old folks' homes or whatever. I don't like that term, even old folks'
Yeah.
homes. I think that's a misnomer in a sense too. Yeah.
Seasoned citizen home?
Yeah, and again, who cares? Maybe as long as there's relationships developing too. I think that's
Right.
important. Yeah.
Well, I know just from having spent a little bit of time with you that joy is truly a very important word
Yeah,
in keeping your whole attitude about life present. and in the present, so that you're not either longing for the past or dreading the future, but learning to live in the moment,
In the
even
moment,
have more aha moments, I guess, as we go along. Huh? Yeah, well, you've got this book out. Again, it's called Joyfully Aging.
Yeah.
And I want to encourage people to take a read of this, and especially if you know of somebody that is in the aging years and you go, you know, they're just really struggling right now. And what could help them? And we think that this book might be a good resource for that.
Thank you. I'd like to say that, you know, they're really selling big. We've sold like 12 copies already.
No, already?
In years, yeah. And,
you're ready for a second printing.
Hazel bought 10 of them, though, you know.
Right.
Somebody once, a friend of mine said that kind of book is the kind of book is that once you put it down, you can't pick it up again.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the kind of book.
Well, you obviously are a successful author if that's the case, but thanks for giving us some insights on this very important time of life for a lot of people. So we've enjoyed having you with us today.
Thank you.
My guest has been Dr. Rich Bimler, who at this stage of life has a wonderful job description. In case you missed it before, the Ambassador of Health, Hope, and Aging for Lutheran Church Charities. And if you'd like more information about what Lutheran Church Charities does, you can also check out their website, lutheranchurchcharities.org. So we look forward to having you join us next time. And when we get together, we're going to talk about a critical work that is done for people who reach out to police officers and emergency service personnel to encourage their lives and to help them as we talk with the chaplain Tim Perry. I hope you'll be with us. And that wraps it up for today. Thank you for joining us on Moving People Forward.